It may seem obvious, but poetry can be a wonderful source of inspiration and creative learning for anybody attempting to write a novel. While the disciplines are distinct, in the same way script writing and book writing are different, poetry is still a very valuable tool in your creative arsenal, and today I want to explore that idea in a little more detail. I've recently started reading and listening to more poetry. I can't really attest to where that interest has come from, but what I can say is that my appreciation for the thing that I hated studying at secondary school has certainly emerged. Something about the crafting of a poem, its structure and various schema, show a real mastery of language use when done well. The nuances, subtle allusions, and themes at play in each one demonstrate a remarkable ability to distill an essence from an idea into something imaginative and thought-provoking. In this video, some poetry will be read, but I won't be analysing each one, as this is not my strength. However, I will look at certain elements we can use to make our own writing better. If you want a breakdown of each, there are many wonderful people around the world who I'm sure will be happy to do that for you. Poetry, first and foremost, is generally a great exercise in efficient writing, in show don't tell. Poems allow us to convey complex feelings and ideas in short, thoughtful passages that compel the reader to consider the deeper and more abstract meanings. Philip Larkin's High Window has a number of lines that show this perfectly. Here is Douglas Murray reading said poem.
When I see a couple of kids and guess he's fucking her and she's taking pills or wearing a diaphragm, I know this is paradise. Everyone old has dreamed of all their lives. Bonds and gestures pushed to one side like an outdated combine harvester, and everyone young going down the long slide to happiness endlessly. I wonder if anyone looked at me 40 years back and thought, that'll be the life, no God anymore, or sweating in the dark about hell and that, or having to hide what you think of the priest. He and his lot will all go down the long slide like free bloody birds. And immediately, rather than words, comes the thought of high windows, the sun-comprehending glass, and beyond it the deep blue air that shows nothing and is nowhere and is endless.
The lines in that reading that really catch my attention are right at the end there. Rather than words come the thought of high windows, the sun-comprehending glass, and beyond it the deep blue air that shows nothing and is nowhere and is endless. These lines demonstrate so fully how much depth and emotion we can communicate in so few words. They tell us as writers that quality and meaning can be written in relatively few words. Framing concepts such as peacefulness in age, social changes, and the loss of innocence through metaphor and example, rather than direct speech, exposition, or narration, gives us a far more satisfying outcome as the reader. It makes us think more about the words we use, the sentences we construct, and the reaction we want our audience to have. Rather than, the glass sparkled in the sunlight, we can follow Larkin and say, the sun-comprehending glass, which is more efficient, more effective, and more original. To take this idea to the extreme, Japanese haikus show us how to encapsulate concepts with absolute efficiency. While they may not be the most useful for novel writing due to their very short length, haikus show us that you don't need to write pages to express clear and succinct ideas. Basho's most famous haiku is a great example of this. Furu ike ya, kawazu tobikomu, mizu no oto. What poems such as this can do is capture singular moments, ideas, feelings, or events, and show them in new and thoughtful ways that allow us to write more efficiently and to engage our audience in a more interesting direction. The extent to which we can do this is limited due to the extended narrative nature of a book, but that doesn't mean we can't learn a thing or two. Poems also tend to show us great case studies of how to communicate a theme effectively without being too brash or overbearing with it. They can help us show and describe things which we may explain too obviously or in a way that has been done 1,000 times before. Poems tend to be subtler in nature, to trigger imagination and abstract thinking, and so they are great things that we can learn from in order to make our own themes or ideas less overbearing when we're trying to integrate them into our story. Take William Henley's poem, for example, Invictus, read here by Morgan Freeman.
The autumn night that covers me black as the pit from pole to pole. I learned it when I was in school.
Yeah. Did you really?
Yeah. I think whatever God there may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of fate, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the shadow of the shade. Yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me, unafraid.
God.
It matters not how straight the gate, how punishment charged the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
The poem Invictus captures the theme of perseverance or strength without ever saying those words. Instead, like High Windows, it uses fantastic imagery and metaphors to share this idea. What poems like this do so well that we can learn is how to create connections between concepts and words that may not automatically be assumed. Expressions like, "Under the bludgeonings of chance my head is bloody, but unbowed," or "From this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade." These are fantastic examples of language mastery to truly stir the imagination and emotion of our reader. New phrases that they've never heard constructed before, but that communicate an unmistakable message of hardship and suffering that we can automatically understand. We don't think about chance being personified to bludgeon us, but we can imagine it doing so when told. Similarly, we don't think of the shade being full of horror, yet we can think of it in such a way within this context. Familiarizing yourself with poetry allows you to gain a further flexibility to be experimental with the language that you use to write your book, to find more unconventional and original ways to express the feelings of your characters or the theme of your story. All of this is very useful for helping your work stand apart and say something new. As for descriptions, well, Basho's earlier haiku was a great example of how to turn something ordinary into something beautiful that sticks in the mind of our reader. Like Invictus, poems can give us new ways to see everyday things. They can take concepts that have assumed importance or understanding and reveal them to us in a new light. For example, most of us know that losing is a crucial element in growing as a person, that we need to fail in order to learn and improve as we go forward. We could describe that concept in an ordinary way, as I've just done, if we wanted to. Or we could look at poetry by people such as Khalil Gibran to explain that idea in a more interesting and nuanced way.
Defeat, my bold companion. You shall hear my songs and my cries and my silences. And none but you shall speak to me of the beating of wings and urging of seas, and of mountains that burn in the night. And you alone shall climb my steep and rocky soul. Defeat, my deathless courage. You and I shall laugh together with the storm, and together we shall dig graves for all that die in us. And we shall stand in the sun with a will. And we shall be dangerous.
Again, the imagery that we get here is so excellent. Hearing songs, cries, and silences, or mountains burning at night, are such vivid ways of explaining the sentiment here, and lines such as being trapped by withering laurels or standing in the sun with a will are such excellent and brilliant ways to show the theme that Gibran is expressing here. The point of all of this is not to say that knowing poetry will turn you into a great writer, but that the disciplines share lots of common ground, and familiarizing yourself with the techniques and strengths of poetry will certainly enhance your writing by allowing you to be more creative, expressive, imaginative, and original in the way you describe things, play on your theme, or share moments with your reader. poetry is varied across cultures, and there are thousands of examples out there that all pivot on the same theme in different ways. Exposing yourself to poems will give you a greater appreciation for language use, and the vast potential that you have in your own story to tell something in a thought-provoking and engaging way, even if the topic or content isn't the most original.